We have a couple other obscure countries. Let's talk about Singapore, and then let's touch on Brazil, and then
Yeah, and we're not touching on all of them. There's some fringe ones out there in like Malaysia and Indonesia, Switzerland, and stuff that doesn't impact a lot of people. We're not going to bother talking about today. Okay, really, those only impact the big players. But Singapore, they came out with their what they call their OVR scheme, and this rolled out the beginning of 2023. So this is fairly young in this game. We're just over a year into this, and this one still does impact mainly just the larger shippers, since Singapore is a relatively small country. You have to sell more than 1,000 Singapore dollars worth of goods. I think the last time I looked, the exchange rate on that was probably around 75,000 USD into Singapore. There's a lot of money in Singapore.
75,000 a year into Singapore, almost similar to the Australian threshold.
Yeah,
which if you're a retailer,
it's actually higher than the Australian threshold.
Yeah. So a U.S. retailer, it's likely they hit that Australian threshold if they do a decent amount of volume. Mm-hmm. But that same retailer probably doesn't have the same percentage of volume going into Singapore. So they would have to be much larger in order to have to worry about this Singapore.
Yeah, and the ones that are going to affect this is, retailers that are probably over in that region of the world are going to have a larger percentage of their shipments going to Singapore than, say, from here in North America.
Yep. So for sure, the big e-commerce retailer, I mean, the big marketplaces, they're dealing with this, and a few select maybe large retailers, but most likely they're inside the region if that's the case, because they're doing a lot of volume into Singapore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So this one is,
and GST there I think is 8% or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it might have just changed to 9. It keeps changing. It's 8 or 9.
Okay.
But I think they kind of turned the heat up, slowly. But it's 9 now. I think it just changed. So the de minimis there is 400. They kept that in place. But the way they determine what's low value, instead of just saying anything below 400, anything above, they actually did it at the item level again, which is, and it's the, but they give you some options, kind of like New Zealand did, which is they can say, hey, at the item level, on either the value of just the item or the value of the item and the CIF value, the value of the item and shipping, or you could just do it at the shipment level. So the default is to say, if you just register for your taxes, the default is, hey, I'm just going to do it at any item below 400 that is of just the item value. So and then you can elect to do something different if you want to. Okay, so item level is similar to what they were doing in New Zealand, right? And that's their default method, is they're going to do it at the item level. Right. Okay. Right. What other options you got here? So another option to say, let's just keep it at the item level, but do it at the CIF value, which is include the shipping costs in it. And that would determine if something's low value. Why would you do that? I don't know. like, wait a second. Why would I increase the value to determine if it's due? Yeah, that one, I have no idea why someone would use that particular option. There might be a use case out there I'm not thinking of, but that one doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because the first one's item level. The second one's item level plus shipping. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know the value. I'm going to determine if it's and don't ask. I don't know. If someone's got a good use case out there on that, I would love to hear. Yep, and leave some comments and explain to us why in the world anyone would do that. Yep. Or maybe there's something we're understanding incorrect. And the simplest option, luckily they give us this one. You can elect to determine if something's a low value shipment instead of item. And you can line it up perfectly with the de minimis, which is 400. And so you can say anything below 400 at a shipment valuation is low value, and any shipment that's above that is not. And it would be just like Australia. So that's what we recommend. We don't recommend their default. We recommend that they do this. I mean, if you're a retailer, if you're using us, we'll take care of it. We'll handle it this way with the paperwork and do it all correctly. But we can do it either way. But if you're out there doing this on your own, that seems like the simplest way to pull this off. Yeah, the logic to have to do the other ones, we can support those. But one of the reasons why I really like the electing to just do it at the shipment level is because it makes it really simple for customs too. You eliminate the possibility of getting double taxation, right? Because customs is already trained that if it's below 400, I don't do anything. They don't assess anything. If it's over, they have to really do some work to assess it, and you line it up perfectly with that. And versus the other ones where you do it at the item level, you could have a shipment over the de minimis, and now you're relying on customs to recognize that they shouldn't assess when they do assess on pretty much every other shipment. So I think either one will work. You just have to watch your back a little more if you do the item level stuff to make sure you're not getting double taxed.
Double taxed. All right. Which is always fun. We've seen that happen out there.